The bar's neon lights flickered like a dying heartbeat, casting jagged shadows across my face as I watched Julian, my Julian, lean in and kiss another man. His lips, the ones that promised me forever under a starlit Joshua Tree sky, pressed against a stranger's with a hunger I no longer recognized. My whiskey glass trembled in my hand, the ice clinking like the sound of my world breaking apart. My name is Elias Torres, 26, a graphic designer scraping by in San Francisco's Mission District. Julian Carter, my boyfriend of 3 years, was the anchor to my chaotic life, a 27-year-old poet with hazel eyes that held entire galaxies. Or so I thought. That night at the Rusty Anchor, a dive bar packed with hipsters and dreamers, I saw him unravel everything we'd built. The stranger he kissed was tall, blonde, and confident, his hands possessive on Julian's waist. I stood frozen, the noise of clinking glasses and laughter fading into a dull roar. Why wasn't I enough? I stumbled outside, the cool Bay Area air slapping my face. The street was alive with late-night energy, taco trucks, street musicians, couples laughing. I felt like a ghost among them. My phone buzzed in my pocket, Julian's name flashing. I ignored it. Instead, I wandered toward the pier, where the city's pulse met the ocean's quiet. That's when I met him. Rough night. The voice was warm, accented with a faint southern drawl. I turned to see a man leaning against the railing, his silhouette framed by the moonlit water. He was maybe 28, with deep brown skin, a neatly trimmed beard, and eyes that seemed to see right through me. His name, he said, was Malik Evans, a photographer passing through town for a gallery show. He wore a denim jacket with patches from cities I'd never visited: New Orleans, Atlanta, Memphis. Something like that. I muttered, my voice raw. I didn't want to talk, but Malik had this way of pulling words out of me, like he was unraveling a knot I didn't know was there. I told him about Julian, the kiss, the betrayal. He listened, not with pity, but with a quiet strength that made me feel seen. "Love's a messy thing," he said, tossing a pebble into the water. "But you don't have to let it break you. What if you said yes to something new? Something that doesn't make you cry?" I laughed, bitter. "Like what? You gonna promise me a happily ever after?" He smiled, soft but sure. "I'm just saying, give yourself a chance to feel something else. I'm here for 3 days. Let me show you what it's like to not hurt." It was reckless, absurd even. But standing there, with Julian's betrayal burning in my chest, I said yes. Yes to a stranger. Yes to a promise I didn't believe in. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee and the sound of Malik humming a jazz tune in my tiny apartment's kitchen. He'd insisted on crashing on my couch after we talked until 2 a.m., swapping stories about our lives. I learned he grew up in New Orleans, raised by a single mom who taught him to find beauty in broken things. He showed me his camera, filled with photos of people, strangers, lovers, loners, each frame capturing a moment so raw it made my heart ache. "Let's get out of here," he said, handing me a mug. "You ever been to Half Moon Bay?" I hadn't, despite living in California my whole life. So we drove, my beat-up Honda rattling along the coastal highway, the Pacific stretching endlessly to our left. Malik rolled down the windows, letting the salt air flood the car. He played Nina Simone on his phone, her voice weaving through the wind. For the first time in hours, I didn't think about Julian. At the beach, we walked barefoot, the sand cold under our toes. Malik pointed out shapes in the clouds: a whale, a heart, a question mark. He talked about his work, how he chased moments that felt true. "You're like that," he said, glancing at me. "Real. Hurting, but real." I wanted to scoff, but his words landed soft, like a hand on my shoulder. We sat on a driftwood log, watching the waves. He didn't push, didn't flirt, just sat with me. And yet, my pulse quickened when his arm brushed mine. Was this what moving on felt like? Or was I just running from the pain? That night, back in the city, Malik took me to his gallery show in Soma. The space was small, industrial, filled with artsy types sipping wine. His photos lined the walls, black and white shots of people laughing, crying, loving. One caught my eye, a couple embracing on a rainy street, their faces blurred but their joy sharp. "That's what I'm after," Malik whispered, standing close. "Moments that make you feel alive." I turned to him, our faces inches apart. His eyes held no promises he couldn't keep, just an invitation to feel something new. My phone buzzed again. "Julian." I silenced it. For the first time, I didn't care what he had to say. But as we left the gallery, I saw him. Julian, standing across the street, his face pale under the streetlights. He'd found me, and he looked like he had something to say. "Elias, please." Julian's voice cracked as he crossed the street, his poet's hands stuffed in his pockets. He looked smaller than I remembered, his hazel eyes dull with guilt. "I messed up. Can we talk?" Malik stood beside me, silent but steady, his presence like a shield. I wanted to scream, to shove Julian away, but the ache in my chest begged for answers. "Why?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why him?" Julian glanced at Malik, then back at me. It was a mistake. I was drunk, stupid. It didn't mean anything. Didn't mean anything? My laugh was sharp, cutting. 3 years, Julian. 3 years, and you kissed someone else like I wasn't even there. He stepped closer, his voice low. "I love you, Elias." I panicked. I got scared of how real us got. But I'm here now. I want to fix this. Malik shifted, his hand brushing mine, a quiet reminder I wasn't alone. "You don't have to decide anything tonight," he said softly. "I'll be at the hotel if you need me." He gave me a nod and walked away, leaving me with Julian and the weight of his words. We ended up at a 24-hour diner, the kind with sticky tables and fluorescent lights that made everything feel raw. Julian spilled his heart over burnt coffee. He talked about his fear of commitment, how my dreams of a shared future, marriage, a house, maybe a dog, felt like a cage. "I'm not ready," he admitted, tears in his eyes. "But I can't lose you." I wanted to hate him, but love doesn't vanish that fast. I remembered our late-night talks, the way he'd read me his poetry, his voice trembling with passion. But I also remembered the blonde stranger, the way Julian's hands had claimed him. "I need time," I said finally, leaving him at the diner with his coffee and his regrets. The next day, I met Malik at a park in the Presidio. He was photographing kids chasing kites, his camera clicking like a heartbeat. When he saw me, he smiled, but there was a question in his eyes. "You okay?" he asked. I wasn't, but I didn't say that. Instead, I told him about Julian's apology, the diner, the confusion clawing at me. Malik listened, his camera resting on his knee. "You don't owe him anything," he said. "But you owe yourself the truth. What do you want, Elias?" It was a question I hadn't dared ask myself. I wanted love that didn't hurt, trust that didn't waver. I wanted the way Malik looked at me, like I was enough. But I barely knew him. Could I trust this feeling, or was it just a rebound? "Let's do something crazy," Malik said, standing up. "Clear your head." He took me to a rooftop bar in the Castro, where drag queens performed under fairy lights. We danced, laughed, drank too much. His hand found mine, and for a moment, I forgot the pain. But as the night wore on, I caught him watching me, his eyes searching. "What?" I asked, breathless from dancing. "I leave tomorrow," he said, "but I don't want this to end here." My heart stuttered. Was he asking for more? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a text from Julian. "I'm outside your place." I'm not giving up. I didn't go home that night. Instead, Malik and I walked the city, from the Castro to the Embarcadero, talking about everything and nothing. He told me about his mom's gumbo recipe, his first heartbreak, his dream of opening a studio. I told him about my art, my fear of being unlovable. Dawn broke over the bay, painting the sky pink. We stood on a pier, the city waking around us. I don't know what I'm doing, I admitted, my voice shaking. Julian broke me. But you make me want to try again. Malik took my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my skin. You're not broken, Elias. You're just figuring out what you deserve. He leaned in, and for a moment, I thought he'd kiss me. But he didn't. Instead, he pulled me into a hug, warm and steady, like he was anchoring me to the world. Back at my apartment, Julian was waiting on the stoop, his hair messy, his eyes red. He stood when he saw me, hope flickering in his face. Elias, I've been here all night. I'm serious. I'll do whatever it takes. I looked at him, the man I'd loved for years, and felt a storm inside me. Part of me wanted to fall into his arms, to believe he could change. But Malik's words echoed. What do you want, Elias? I didn't have an answer yet, but I knew I couldn't go back to the way things were. I can't do this right now, I said, brushing past him. I need space. He grabbed my arm, gentle but desperate. Don't shut me out. Please. I pulled away, my heart pounding. You shut me out when you kissed him, Julian. I'll call you when I'm ready. Inside, I collapsed on my couch, Malik's denim jacket still draped over the armrest. It smelled like him, cedar and salt. I clutched it, trying to make sense of the chaos. My phone buzzed with a text from Malik, heading to the airport soon. Meet me at Golden Gate Park if you want to say goodbye. I drove to the park, my mind a tangle of Julian's apologies and Malik's quiet strength. I found him near the Japanese tea garden, his camera slung around his neck. He smiled when he saw me, but there was a sadness there too. Didn't think you'd come, he said. I didn't know if I would, I admitted. We walked through the garden, the cherry blossoms falling like soft rain. I told him about Julian's plea, my fear of choosing wrong. He stopped by a koi pond, his reflection rippling in the water. Love's not about being fearless, he said. It's about choosing what's worth the risk. I'm not asking you to pick me, Elias. I'm just asking you to pick yourself. His words hit like a wave, washing away some of the fog in my head. I looked at him, his warm eyes, his steady hands, and felt something shift. Not love, not yet, but possibility. What happens when you leave? I asked. He grinned. We figure it out. Phones exist. Planes exist. And I'm pretty good at keeping promises. That afternoon, I sat in my studio, sketching. My art had always been my refuge, a way to make sense of the world. I drew Malik's face, the curve of his jaw, the spark in his eyes. Then I drew Julian, his haunted expression from the night before. Two men, two paths, and me in the middle, trying to find my way. My phone rang, Julian again. This time, I answered. He was at a cafe in No Valley, begging me to meet him. Against my better judgment, I went. He looked wrecked, his hands shaking as he slid a notebook across the table. I wrote this for you, he said. Please read it. It was a poem, raw and aching, about love and regret and second chances. Each line felt like a knife, cutting open old wounds and new hopes. I'm not perfect, he said when I finished, but I'm yours if you'll have me. I didn't know what to say. His words were beautiful, but beauty hadn't stopped him from breaking my heart. I left the cafe with his notebook, promising nothing. Malik's flight was leaving in 2 hours. I found him at the airport, standing outside the terminal with his camera bag slung over his shoulder. He looked surprised but happy to see me. Thought you might be with him, he said, nodding toward the city. I said, but I needed to see you. We sat on a bench, planes roaring overhead. I told him about Julian's poem, the pull of our history, the fear of letting go. Malik listened, his face calm, but his eyes intense. You're not here to say goodbye, are you? He asked. I shook my head. I don't know what I'm doing, Malik. But when I'm with you, I feel like I can breathe again. He took my hand, his fingers warm against mine. Then breathe, Elias. And when you're ready, I'll be here, or there, or wherever you need me to be. We stood, and this time, he didn't hold back. His lips met mine, soft and sure, a kiss that felt like a beginning. It wasn't a promise of forever, but it was a promise of now. When he pulled away, he pressed his forehead to mine. "You're gonna be okay," he whispered. Back in the city, I met Julian one last time. We sat on a bench in Dolores Park, the skyline glittering in the distance. I handed him his notebook. "I love you," I said, my voice steady. "But I don't trust you anymore. And I deserve better than that." His face crumpled, but he nodded. "I hope you find it," he said, and walked away. I didn't cry. Instead, I pulled out my phone and texted Malik. "Just bought a ticket to New Orleans. See you in a week?" His reply came seconds later. "Hell yes." Months later, I stood on a cliff in Big Sur, Malik by my side. The ocean roared below, the sunset painting the sky in hues of gold and pink. My art was thriving, my heart healing. Malik's hand found mine, our fingers intertwining. "Told you," he said, grinning. "No more tears." I laughed, leaning into him. Love wasn't perfect, but it was worth the risk. And for the first time, I believed I deserved it.